It's a really big hurdle for me. Like I've grown a lot more comfortable with it at this point for sure. And I think the biggest thing that has helped me is just getting feedback from people. And so I really appreciate people who do this because I've had people reach out, whether it's through comments, direct emails, social media, whatever it is, and they talk about the way that it's impacted.
Hello and welcome to the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where I sit down with a wonderful creator each and every Friday morning. If you're looking for something to help you start, grow, or monetize your YouTube channel, this is the place for you. We don't have any advertisers or anything of that nature on the show. All we ask is that you support one of our offerings for creators. We have everything from YouTube channel reviews and audits. We do one-to-one coaching with creators and consulting. We have a mastermind group where we go live every month with mastermind calls. We have creator-led calls as well as exclusive podcast episodes that are released on that feed as well. And then lastly, we have our email newsletter called the Entrepreneur's Minute, which is just kind of a place where you can catch up with me, see all the things that I have going on behind the scenes at my business. And then we have the Entrepreneur's Toolbox, which is just a running list of all the tools and links to those tools that are mentioned here on the podcast. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the show. We really appreciate it. And now, without further ado, let's jump into the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the conversation this week on the Creators Hub podcast. I'm so excited today to be joined by Chase Christopher. Chase, in his bio, says that he's just a regular dude, firefighter, DIYer, adventurer, and soon-to-be dad. So that's something that he and I bonded over off air as he is expecting his first, and we just welcomed our third, fourth, and fifth. So he's got a lot of fun times coming for sure. His goal is to help people live more intentional and adventurous lifestyles, making the most of the situation that they're in. He's grown his YouTube channel now, as of recording to this, almost 80,000 subscribers, not even 150 videos uploaded just yet. Every video, as I look at his channel and I look at the vidIQ tool, almost every one of his videos is an outlier, which means that every time that Chase uploads, his videos tend to do better than the last. And if they don't, the one after certainly does. So Chase, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me the origin story of this YouTube channel. Looks like you tinkered around with some stuff 5-6 years ago, and then you started taking it more serious, and it's kind of evolved over time. So give the audience a perspective of kind of how did this channel come to be, and how did it certainly come to be what it is today?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it fairly short.
No, you don't need to. This is a podcast. You give us the full story.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess throwing it way back, I've always had an interest in photography, and that stemmed, I guess, when I was young in school. And I kind of went down that path a little bit, including through high school, had some interest there, and was considering doing that as a profession potentially. I ended up getting into firefighting in high school through a program there, and then that pulled me in, and I pretty much put all of my focus and energy on that from that time forward, and photography became kind of a side quest of mine for during my hobbies. And then long story short, after a number of years, got into firefighting, ended up moving over here to Idaho, and I was still using my camera a lot for just personal photography use. And then I started doing some photography for some companies in the outdoor space, which led to some connections that brought me into the hunting world, where I started doing photos, and then they asked for video. And so I started to learn that side of things, and I was able to travel a bit around the US. And then over the years, and this was while also working full time, so I just kind of shovel the schedule around to where I could make these trips. And then I'd just be gone a lot. And then when I wasn't gone, I was pretty much at work. And so then my wife and I met in 2019, and I'd been doing that for a few years. And shortly after we met, I actually did my last, it didn't end up being my last, but one of the last projects was over into Kyrgyzstan on a trip over there, which was really cool. But it was I think it was a 2-week long trip. And so when I came back, I had a ton of work to make up, and still had to do all the editing, had to do all of the things associated. And so I realized pretty quick that I needed to create a little bit more flexible schedule. And so I was also simultaneously at that time starting to get some roles at work that involved instruction, presentation. I realized very quickly that even in things that I was comfortable with and confident in, I was not capable, or I didn't feel very capable of presenting those to new people, recognizing where the person that I'm talking to is, especially when they're newer and I don't really know their background. And so I just wanted to learn more about presenting. And so I just decided to try YouTube out and use it as a continuation of the creative outlets, but at a more flexible timing. And then also to get to work on presentation, because I was incredibly uncomfortable speaking, certainly on camera, but even just in general to groups. It was something that I didn't feel comfortable in, and it's still a work in progress. But I started doing YouTube. I really enjoyed backpacking outdoor stuff. And so that was the original idea. I was going to share about backpacking. And so I set up, at the time I had, or actually we still have the car, but a Subaru Outback, and I set it up inside for camping inside. I pulled out the back seats, built a camper in the back, and then I was going to use that to go out and make my videos to make things a little more efficient traveling. And somebody actually at work told me, is like, oh, you should make a video about that. And so I did a quick video one day, and that was not the first one, but among the first videos. And then it kind of took off a little bit. And so I ended up getting a bunch of questions about that build. People wanted like designs, plans, all this stuff. And I didn't have any of that because I pretty much carved it piece by piece and was like, not a carpenter by any means. And so long story short, after a lot of requests, I ended up building a website, rebuilding the little camper insert system, and learned a design modeling program, made some very rudimentary designs, and then posted them up on the site that people could buy for, pretty inexpensive, so that people could travel a little bit more efficiently, I guess, with the car that they had, which was a big surprise to me, because at the time I had a truck, sold it to get this Subaru, and I thought I was probably one of the only people that would kind of make that transition. Like, people doing the stuff I was doing would maybe look at like a van or a camper or something like that. But turns out there was a lot of people who were interested. And so that led me down a path for a while. I would make videos about camping, kind of manage the site. And then I slowly, over time, I guess, other interests trickled in, to include a little bit of real estate investing. My wife and I, we got married, a while after that. And then we started looking into a lot of different things, again, real estate investing being one. And so we ended up buying a really old house, and we fixed it up over the course of about 2 years. And so the channel during that time swerved a little bit into sort of the DIY space, which it was adjacent, because like the plans and the projects were a DIY-ish venture to start with, but swerved into that realm, slowed down a little bit on the videos just because I was headlong into that project while also, working the day job. And then, I guess all that kind of has ebbed and flowed over the years, and I've done a bit of the outdoor content, a bit of the DIY content. Both of those have continued in different forms. And then we've also traveled a bit in the last few years internationally, which wasn't something that we had really done prior. And so that's also kind of started to flow in a little bit. And really, it's been a side outlet, I guess, for me this whole time, both creatively and then also certainly with the desire to build something out of it and, have some sort of monetary component. But it's been a really good outlet. And it's also it's led to a lot of really cool connections through the process in multiple different lanes. And so that's the short story, short-ish.
Sure. I love that. The website that you mentioned, roadtoridge.com, you got a few DIY plans for sale there. A lot of those leads, I assume, are probably coming from your YouTube videos, where people watch those things that you're doing in your vlogs or whatever. And then they say, oh, I would like those plans. And they purchase those for a very inexpensive price on your website. So again, that's one of your monetization methods. Now, was there a time where you thought to yourself, as these videos and you were uploading and you were seeing some traction with the things that you were doing on the channel, that you thought to yourself, okay, I need to probably take this a bit more serious than I have been?
Yeah, I would say, unfortunately, there's probably been about 100 times where I've thought that. And there's been phases where I've really leaned in and been a little bit more consistent. And then it's ebbed and flowed a lot just because of work and things like that. But definitely that initial phase when people started reaching out for those plans, like I said, I had no intention of building them. I had no intention of selling them. I didn't feel qualified at all to do it among all the other things I felt unqualified to share online. And so I didn't plan to, but I'd get messages a lot and then emails. And then one day I got a call from an older lady across the US who she called me. She started talking to me like I was her grandson. I didn't really know how she got my number. I think it must have been from an old photography posting. And she was like, "Hey, I really need that. So if you could send it to me, that'd be great." And I was like, I don't have it. And so I think that was really one of the big like turning points for me, where I realized it's like, okay, there's a really cool opportunity to reach outside of, I guess, my own little sphere. Even though I feel entirely unqualified, there's impact happening, which felt very surprising to me. Like I didn't think that it would be anything beyond I guess maybe surface level education or entertainment. And so that definitely kind of flipped a switch in a way that I realized like, oh, this is really cool. Not only is it certainly a selfish pursuit creating these videos, but also the impacts are outsized. And so ever since then, it's ebbed and flowed as I realize that, and I get dedicated, and then life kind of swerves a little bit, and yeah.
I think that is probably one of the most wonderful things about YouTube is that you can do that. If it is a side thing for you, like it is for you, obviously, and it's not your full time, you have to count on this to put food on the table. You're able to go through seasons where you don't upload. The channel will always be there, and you can also adjust and pivot on the things that you're creating about based on interest and passion, because that's going to come through the camera. Now, you mentioned in that open about trying to become better at presenting and speaking in front of the camera. And when the microphone goes, in front of your face and the record button starts to blink, become better at that for your day job as you were doing training, I assume, for firefighting, EMT, whatever it may be. Did it have the effect, and has it helped you? And what are some things that you did to improve and get better at that skill?
Yeah, I would say it certainly helped from the confidence side a bit. Hard to say how it's changed over time as far as the effect, but I've definitely grown a lot just through having the repetition. Watching yourself on camera is hard, and listening to yourself is even worse. And so having all of those reps where I just like get to see, all of these different ticks or these things that I tend to do has definitely helped me, at least a small amount. I've got a long ways to go, but in my role today, I still do a bit of training, or I should say I do more. I'm a part of our field training division, I guess. And so we work together to facilitate and deliver training. And so I think it's helped me a lot. And I think if I did it more, it'd probably be even more useful. I mean, it's ultimately kind of like when I was getting into it, and maybe many people do this when they're preparing for like interviews. You talk in the mirror, you record yourself to help critique the way that you're presenting yourself. And so this has kind of been that, but for different topics. And certainly the comment section will help me out with that too. They're usually pretty
Yeah.
okay with being hypercritical.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think has been the hardest thing to, I don't know if you would say learn or adjust to, or coming from someone who really didn't do much content creation? You obviously were a photographer, so you were a creative, but as far as video creation and running a YouTube channel, what has been the biggest challenge for you?
Yeah, I'd like to come up with something novel. It's probably a pretty consistent theme that people hear. I mean, imposter syndrome is a good starting point, where it's from the example of the car camper. When people ask me, I was like, well, I don't know I've never built a website other than a simple portfolio. I don't know how to 3D model. I'm not a carpenter, all these things, And so every topic that comes about, like, you kind of feel that way, where it's like, well, I'm not the best at this thing, or I don't have the most experience at this thing. And so that definitely is like a natural brake pumper that you kind of have to look beyond, and trust that there's going to be impact that makes it worth it. And so the, yeah, the willingness to just, I guess, just send it and not care about how you're perceived. And so long as I guess the intent is right, then at the end of the day, just becoming okay with that has been a challenge that takes time. But the more feedback you get on the positive side certainly encourages that.
Did you have much outside noise from people when you started uploading and putting yourself out there? And, obviously you and your wife's journeys and adventures, how have you handled people commenting or giving their 2 cents about you putting yourself out there, because one of, I believe, the greatest barriers to being a creative, and whether it's uploading a short form funny video to TikTok or uploading a long form video to YouTube, is the ability to get beyond caring what other people think. How big of a hurdle is that, do you think? And how have you gotten beyond that?
Yeah, it's a really big hurdle for me. Like I've grown a lot more comfortable with it at this point for sure. And I think the biggest thing that has helped me is just getting feedback from people. And so I really appreciate people who do this, because I've had people reach out, whether it's through comments, direct emails, social media, whatever it is, and they talk about, the way that it's impacted, which in a lot of ways I see these videos that I make on, whether it's an adventure type of a piece of content or DIY stuff, and it feels like it's very low impact capability, or it has a low impact capability, but then you talk to people and you realize like, oh wow, this actually, like, this had a monumental like impact on them, at least in that time of their life. Maybe it's not a life changing thing, but it had an impact. And when people communicate that, which again, I really appreciate it, because I'm not good at doing that to people who impact me similarly, but those things are become like little, I guess, little nuggets that I try to fall back on and think of like, okay, well, sure, there's 50 people who are leaving, hate comments on this popular video, and maybe they're justified in some ways, but then there's also, at least whatever, this one person who had a positive impact. And so at the end of the day, it's free for everybody. So the people who are not enjoying it, I mean, fortunately for them, they have a choice and they can choose not to watch it if they don't want to.
Yeah, using those things as motivators to me, and obviously for me, doing this for so long, I use even the negative comments as fuel. And I'm able to look at those things. And if it is constructive criticism, I found early on in my creator journey, I wasn't able to take that and utilize it and actually make it helpful. I was getting very defensive. But now, as I've gotten older and I've learned, hey, some of these people are not out to just completely hate on me. They really want it to be better. And whether they're listening to a podcast and they're giving me feedback on how I'm putting the podcast together, or the different segments or the questions I'm asking, they're saying they're still listening and consuming my content, but they really want it to be better. They're giving me honest feedback. So being able to balance the honest feedback, ignoring the haters, and being able to just put yourself out there is a really good balance. And I think you put it probably better than I did there. So that's a great answer to that question. Now, as far as the production of your videos, your upload schedule seems to be 1 or 2 videos a month, obviously, depending on kind of what season you're in your life. What does it look like for you from start to finish, from ideation all the way to upload for one of your videos?
Yeah, it's a bit all over the place. I won't come out and pretend like I have an ironed out process at this point. I've approached it from a lot of different angles, and really through this whole time, I've treated this like, I've called it chasing rabbits, where I allow myself, I guess, the ability to just try things, and maybe I never catch whatever the rabbit that I'm chasing there, but at least I get to learn, I get to try, especially in this phase of our life where that was an option. And so I guess generally speaking, for the videos, I'll usually I try to come up with some sort of like value, like what's the one little or big piece of value that this content's going to offer. And because I do a mix of things, from like DIY projects where it's a little bit more obvious of like, oh, build this thing, and I also do a little bit of travel stuff, I try to just summarize in my head, like, okay, if there was a general purpose or a value offering in this, what is it going to be? And then if I have any sort of like very specific intentions within it, I might do a little bit more pre-planning, where I actually kind of bulletize some notes and come up with an outline, especially if it is like an instructional or an informational piece. And oftentimes it's more just to help me not ramble like I tend to do. But in general, aside from coming up with like a general like value offering, and then a handful of like, I guess, supporting pieces or the process, I try to keep it fairly loose, I guess, because I don't feel like I read I don't sound natural when I'm reading, and so I try to avoid. I don't really ever use any sort of script or anything like that. I'd rather do a retake than have a script. Is kind of my perspective on it. And so most of the time, I will do that in the beginning, create the video. If during the creation I'm able to do any sort of narration, or there's just a natural fit for talking in the video, then I'll do it that way. Or if not, then I will in post then do a voiceover, and I usually do that after I've put the video together to have a kind of a basic outline, and I'll just sit down and try to rip through a voiceover process. And I tend to do that more often with like some of the DIY projects. Like recently, we just moved into this house that we're in here about 8-9 months ago, and we had a flood after in the house. We had a leak and some plumbing, and so I ended up making some videos of the process of repairing that, but I didn't have the time to I guess pre-produce and during the process like stop and narrate everything. I had little bits here and there, but it was a lot more time constraint, and I just didn't have the mental capacity to think about it during, and so
Sure.
a lot of it ended up happening after. I'm
Are
all
there
over the place.
are there any tools that you use that you just couldn't live without? Like as far as when you're working through everything and you're doing your video production side of things, like what are your tools of the trade?
Yeah, as far as standard tools, I use I guess like the Google suite a lot, so I tend to create a lot of yeah, I guess just content in there that I can review through before I even start stuff. But then as far as during the process, I don't use many different tools other than I have used TubeBuddy a little bit in the past. And then certainly these days I use ChatGPT pretty regularly, often just to clean up if I am trying to bulletize something and I just kind of brain dump. I might use it to clean things up, or I might use it to do a little bit of research on something or confirm something that I'm working on.
Interrupt the conversation just briefly to tell you about two things that we offer creators. Number one is our YouTube channel review service, where I take a look at your channel and I record a screencast video telling you where I think you should be spending the majority of your time to help you grow your channel. And then secondly, our YouTube Mastermind program and Creators Corner group, you get a ton of perks. For very little money, $5 to $10 a month, you get access to our creator mastermind calls, exclusive podcast episodes. So if you're looking for a place just to hang out with other creators, that's definitely where you want to start. So with that said, let's jump back into the conversation. That's probably just a result of where we are in this age of YouTube. You don't have to have the fancy tools and the bells and whistles. You can do everything with your phone or a decent mirrorless camera or whatever you decide to use. And AI is a companion to almost everyone. I think if you're not using it in some regard, you're probably getting left behind. You have to utilize it in some way. So I completely am with you there. Now, as far as packaging, like thumbnails, titles, what is your strategy there? I know you said you kind of chase rabbits and you kind of try and experiment, which is what YouTube is made for, especially for a hobbyist and a part-time person on a channel. But what have you learned over time about what works for video packaging?
Yeah, it's well, I guess to go back. Sorry, were you asking before this about like specific like camera equipment, or were you more talking about
No. So for the
software,
tools,
apps,
you
things
you
like that?
you answered exactly what I was asking.
Okay.
That was perfect.
Okay, good.
But for the question now, I'm asking more in regards to like thumbnail, title, the packaging you're putting
Yeah.
together when you're uploading your video.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I try to keep that fairly organic. I think one thing that I've found, especially with like instructional or not instructional, educational content in general, I try to stick to a little bit more of a I learned this or I did this or how I do X thing,
Yeah.
just because that, and this is probably something I've drawn from you in podcasts that I can't recall specifically, but it kind of just closes the door from like a you should do this type of a presentation that people can reject. It's hard to reject somebody's experience when it's I did this, and so yeah, I just try to create thumbnails that are photography that I appreciate, which can be really hard, especially because I do a lot of content by myself, and so it's a lot of setting up tripod and going back and forth and creating the photos. But at the end of the day, I just try to yeah, have some combination of how I did this or I went and did this. thing and then represent it well through a thumbnail that's good photography. And I've definitely found that it's helpful to have a face kind of visible, at least somewhat, like so that people can maybe recognize you, or if it's not your face, then it's like just something recognizable
Yes.
in the thumbnail. But again, it's something that I'm not I don't feel I'm extremely strong at, but I've really enjoyed having the A/B testing process in YouTube now native recently. That gives me a little bit more insight into this, and it's probably something I could go back and revisit a lot of my videos, because I don't really go back at all and update anything, which I should. But yeah.
Yeah, the A/B testing tool is phenomenal. I'm so glad it's built in now. You do one of the things, and you can tell looking at your thumbnails that you have experience or a history in photography, because the photos that you use are wonderful. They're big, they're colorful, they tell a story almost, which is kind of what you want your thumbnail to do. You want your thumbnail to evoke that curiosity, or people to see it on that home feed, because you have to think of how people are consuming content now. It's that infinite loop and that infinite scroll, and you have to be the thing, or your thumbnail or your title has to be the thing that stops them, right, in their tracks, to get them to do that. And you have a video that you did about 6 months ago that you titled "How I Turned Our Garage into a Super Cool Space," and then you put in parentheses a couple of things that you did. That video now has over 625,000 views, still climbing. It's done really well for you. I think that's the antithesis of what I teach my clients when I'm doing one-on-one coaching calls. Remove the text off the thumbnail. You don't have to have a ton of text, or it doesn't have to be inconsistent. It can be just this one fluent image that make people wonder or make people think as to why they'd want to watch that video. And so you do that very well. Like another video example, the one you did about fall truck camping plus dirt biking in the snow. It's a great thumbnail of the truck and the dirt bike and you sitting there in nature. These are things that in combination will make people want to click and watch a video. So let's now transition into, you've grown this channel, you've done really well with it, you've got a great community building. Now we're monetizing. So we've talked about your website. You're selling those digital blueprints basically for pennies on the dollar, which, by the way, if I was your coach, I would be telling you, number one, double down and do more of those. And number two, you're charging way less than you probably should. That's my advice to you here on air on the podcast. But let's talk about the ways that you are monetizing the channel. Can you talk about that? And then towards the end of the answer, give us on average what you might make on a given month.
Yeah, as far as monetizing, there's a handful of different ways, like most people. Certainly the AdSense is a portion. It's consistent, but it's not the lion's share by any means. So just the standard AdSense revenue, and then the site has just been chugging along. It's been, I don't even know now, probably 5 years, and there's still pretty consistently orders coming through on there. And I've also actually put most of those plans on Etsy as well, and so that's kind of an adjacent sistered system, I guess, with those plans. And then through it all, I've definitely gotten a number of client jobs through it. There's been phases where I've done more client work totally away from YouTube, whether it's for their own channels, specifically on the video side, or else for their marketing or whatever it might be. My wife's a wedding photographer, and so I also do some wedding videos periodically. I usually do 1 or 2 a year, just so that we can do it together, especially on weddings in cool spaces. And then some partnerships. I've done a number of those. A lot of times I've used that more as an avenue to facilitate whatever I'm trying to do. And so like recently with the garage one isn't a great example, but the house one hasn't done very well. But the video of us repairing this flood damage, I refloored the whole house, and I had a partnership with the flooring company that provided the flooring to me. And throughout time, I've depending on the phase that I'm in, I'll kind of swerve a little bit towards partnerships that help to facilitate something that I would already be buying. And so it just more, helps to remove expenses in our life. And then I haven't mentioned it yet, but actually I recently, with partners, we started another company called Lewi Gear Company, and it's a dirt bike hitch hauling system. It lifts your dirt bike, carries it in a different way than most, and then even when it's on there, you can drop it down and lower your tailgate, get into the back of your truck, things like that. And so recently that's been something, because I am doing most of the marketing side of things there. It's another kind of an adjacent brand that I am able to use the YouTube channel as a lead magnet for, and so I can in these recent videos I've just shown the product. I haven't actually even really talked about it at all. It's more just it's there and people can see it, and then it can help move people over if they're interested in that. So it's fairly organic, but in the last couple months or last really month only since we have started our sort of a beta launch, it's been really effective at connecting with people that way. So all those different avenues. And
Now,
then
on average, what do you think you might make on a month from the creator endeavors here that we've mentioned?
yeah, it's ebbed and flowed. I would say, and I haven't done a good job of quantifying all of the partnership things because a lot of the product type stuff. So maybe with that excluded, I would say on average in the last few years, maybe 2 to 5 grand a month, maybe more. Some months it's significantly more depending on the I guess the projects outside of YouTube that might be client stuff. So depending on my capacity, it can certainly go a lot higher, but I would say the floor is probably around the $2,000 mark.
And I think that that's only going to increase, right? Especially with this new product from, the dirt bike. And that's more of a higher ticket item. And I assume once more of those come through, depending on what the margins are on that, you can see that just only increasing. And having YouTube as the central hub of that is such a wonderful thing. So that leads me to kind of my closing question. I mentioned off air to you, what are some things that you would find interesting about your channel? And you really mentioned this thing that doesn't get talked about very much. And that is the opportunity and the opportunities that YouTube provides you as a creator outside of just the initial or the uploads of videos in the community, in the comment section. It provides you with clientele outside of YouTube. It provides you with connections that allow you and your wife to go on trips that you never would have been on before. Can you speak on that and maybe encourage those listening that may think that they have to get to a certain subscriber or view count to experience these things? I found that to be completely opposite, where you don't have to have a specific number. You just have to talk to the right person.
Yeah, I think that's probably been the most surprising thing for me outside of the impact potential of YouTube. That's been one of the most surprising. And there's been I mean, I could go on about different things, but one example that comes to mind is one of our my wife and I's good friends, a couple. We connected with them originally. It was through YouTube. He had reached out to me, just shot me a message. We ended up connecting, and we've become extremely good friends since then. He's a YouTuber as well, and now his channel's growing very rapidly. But after we connected, he ended up taking me on a trip down to Baja California, down in Mexico, on a long trip to help. So I could help him make some videos for a business that he was launching down there. And so we got to go drive these off-road trucks for, a week. And I've gone back another time since then with him. And so it's just grown. I mean, that one's just been a whole friendship that started just from YouTube. And I've got multiple other connections, friends that are like that. And I think it's just because in a way, the YouTube channel, when somebody watches it, they're like, oh, it's kind of like a very informal interview of sorts where you kind of get to know somebody. And then I've had multiple people. I just had somebody reach out the other day who is local to me, and he just messaged me and he's like, hey, watch your videos. I think we have a lot in common. We should hang out sometime. And I was like, sweet, let's do it. So, it kind of just, it connects you with people and companies in ways that I just would have never expected. And then especially with the client side, while I'm not necessarily pursuing client work at all right now on the video side, it's had a really crazy impact in that I've had several projects in the past where I maybe get somebody introduces me or they just reach out, and there's like zero pitching of anything. Like I don't send a deck. I don't send any sort of pitch, because they just come in and they're like, yeah, we saw, whatever, a video, or we saw something and we like that. And so it creates this extremely like lower stress environment for me, where the client already, they've seen it. They've decided already that they're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. And I don't have to pitch myself or worry that they're expecting me to be something else, because it's, they're coming in through this avenue.
Yeah.
Long-winded, but a lot of different
You,
ways, and it's been awesome.
YouTube's already done that work for you. And I always say every video is a business card for you. And I completely stick by that. Now, I just think that for you in the future of your channel, you're at the very bottom of your potential. Your channel can really do, I mean, 3, 5, 10x what it's doing now. And these are the channels that I love featuring on this podcast you're at the point now in your journey where you're comfortable with who you are, you're comfortable with your voice, and you're really good at the on-camera side of things. Now it's just a matter of, how do I scale this thing and how far do I want to take it? I love my job firefighting. You and your wife are expecting a kid. So, with you, you're stable and you have this thing on the side that you can do that's fun and that is giving you a multitude of opportunities. And that's what YouTube can do, is it can really improve your circle of influence. I say it all the time about this podcast. It's one of my favorite things, is my Rolodex of people that I now have contacts with in my phone has increased dramatically through these 500 some odd interviews. And I'm just so thankful that I'm able to do this each and every week. So Chase, thank you again. And I want to close by giving you the opportunity to just, what would you say to the creators listening to this, whether they're starting or trying to grow or trying to monetize, wherever they may be on the creator journey? What would be your kind of parting words to those folks?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a whole lot of wisdom to share, but one thing I was thinking about before this, in anticipation, was a strategy that I've started to use for myself in the last, I guess it's been probably most of this journey has been something that I learned from my study into considering real estate investing. And that was like, with every single project, have multiple. In the real estate world, they say have multiple outs, and so if you're buying a house to make it into a rental, also consider, if that didn't work, what's another lane in which it would work, what's another way that it could have value that would still make sense. And so in the YouTube realm, I've kind of thought about that, where as I approach content, I think like, okay, I'm going to do this project. Well, again, we'll talk about the house since that's where I'm looking right now and thinking about recently. I approached it from, I was like, okay, there's a couple different opportunities here. One is, and sometimes they're synergistic, but one is I make the video and I learn this process that I've never done before, which is, installing this flooring, repairing these certain things that were damaged. I have a partnership in doing that. And so it facilitates it. It helps, my wife and I's financial bottom line effectively on a personal level. And so that's lane one. That's a win, in and of itself. And then if the video reaches people and they enjoy it and they get inspired or they learn, certainly it will have an impact on me financially if it gets views, but also it's another lane that would be considered a win, I guess, or another out. And so, yeah, having two different ways. That way, if one way, on one hand, which that video hasn't done super well. And so it's like, well, okay, the video maybe hasn't reached that many people and maybe it isn't as valuable as I'd hoped to people, but our house is still fixed and now we've got a house to live in, and so that in adjacent to other realms like travel, we've really enjoyed travel in the last few years. And so again, we might make a video and it's like, well, you get to make the video, maybe some part of that travel or the gear or something was facilitated through a partnership. And so at the end of the day, it's like, it's already a win before you make it public, make the video public. And then at that point, it's already a win before it happens. And I don't think it has to be like, those are, I guess, more financial considerations, but the education side has been huge for me too, where like with the flooring, there's multiple things where it's like, well, even if this, costs me money, it always costs you time. If I come out the other side and nobody watches the video and they don't like it, I still learned a lot, just because you approached it with specific intent that,
Sure.
I
love that. I think that is a great perspective and a great mentality to go by, is you can benefit from a multitude of things from a YouTube video. It doesn't have to be just strictly vanity numbers or metrics that you're looking for. Sure, those will come, but the things that can be the auxiliary of those is important. So I love that. That's a great answer. Chase, you've been a wonderful guest here on the podcast. I can't wait for a couple of years from now when you've blown up on your channel and I'll have you back on and you can tell us how you've gotten to where you are then. But thank you again. Good luck in your fatherhood upcoming here in the next couple of months. It's going to be one of the best if not the best things that you ever do. And I can't wait to see you feature that little one on the channel, possibly one day down the line. And we'll talk to you later.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Dusty.
And that's a wrap on this week's episode of the Creators Hub Show. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen or watch the show. We would really appreciate it. Also, if you would leave us a review, that does help the podcast grow and allow us to reach new listeners and new creators. And then lastly, if you haven't already, please check out one of our offerings down below. All the links will be there for our one-on-one coaching, channel review services, mastermind group. Everything will be there that's mentioned throughout the show. And with that said, we'll talk to you guys next week.